Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Batman the Red Death. This is one of the Dark Knight's metal tie-ins, and this was the first real Dark Knight metal book that I read that really got me hooked on the series. Because I read Dark Knight's Metal #1, and I was just kind of But then I started seeing these one-shots come out, so I figured I'd pick it up because I saw Batman dressed as the Flash, and I'm like, what's going on? And this was the book that hooked me. So the print date on this was November 2017, and oh my goodness, guys, this book is magnificent. So it starts out, and you kind of see this kind of abstract sort of Rorschach going on. And just because we've been going over this, you know that you see the text here, we know it's the Batman Who Laughs that's talking, and it says, "Stop me if you've read this one, if you've heard this one. Worlds will live, worlds will die. But imagine if your every fear, each bad decision, gave birth to a malformed world of nightmare. A world that shouldn't exist, and desperate as it fights to survive in the light of the true multiverse, far above. These worlds are doomed to rot apart and die because they are wrong at their core." And then we see an explosion of the dark multiverse. This right here is an homage to the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, when it was showing how all the Earths were being smashed into one, which became Earth Zero. So I really like that they came back and did a nod to that, because it really kind of ties the original Crisis with this going on. And then, of course, Batman says, "It's all one big cosmic joke, except no one on this side is laughing." And so we kind of get that morbid look. And then, splash page of the Flash, just trying to figure out what's going on. This is Earth -52. That's why on the McFarlane Toys version it says Earth -52 instead of the Red Death. Why, I don't know, but it is what it is. So this is Batman the Red Death. This is called Ride the Lightning, which I love, that little tribute to Metallica. And here's the things. We see Flash screaming, "It's getting worse. Central City is coming apart." Now, who's doing this? We'll get into that in a second. This is Joshua Williamson doing the writing, which I like what he's been doing with the Flash. His story's been really, really well. Art is Carmine Giandominco. If I'm slaughtering these, forgive me. Colors is Ivan Placencia. Letters, Tom Napolitano. And so here's everyone else that's working on the book. Off the top of my head, if you guys can help me, I cannot remember who created the Flash. That just eludes me. And then, of course, it says Batman created by Bill Finger with Bob Kane. So if y'all could let me know down in the comments who created the Flash, I'd appreciate it, because brain just went out the window on that one. Now, who is Barry talking to when he's saying Central City is coming apart? He's saying we shouldn't be fighting. Time is running out. You're the smartest person I know. This is bigger than either of us. We have to do something before it's too late. So who's he talking to? Bam! Batman. And we see he has like Captain Cold's freeze gun and his mask. He goes, "As usual, you're already late, Flash. It's time you let someone else have the Speed Force." And so we see Batman is not playing around. And Barry's like, "I'm not going to give it to you. You know, I've lost people I love too." And he's like, "Then you should understand. If you don't help me willingly, I will make you." So they get into this fight. And you see that Bruce is using Mirror Master's little power. And Barry's essentially saying, "Are you really using the Rogue's tricks? What makes you think you'll succeed when I'm always able to beat them?" And so we just see this another beautiful splash page of this tank flying out. And he goes, "You're right. My toys are better." Now, the way he's in this seat and the way his face and kind of has that 5 o'clock shadow going on, this is very much reminds me of Frank Miller's All-Star Batman, which if you guys have not read that, if you want to read something that's kind of like an acid trip Batman story, definitely one to read. It is fun, nonetheless. And so Bruce is saying he needs the Speed Force. He's saying for not just for Jason, Tim, Dick, and Damian. Gotham did what it always does. It takes, and it takes, and it takes. I need to find a way to stay one step ahead of it. But with each day, I feel myself getting older and slower. I need the Speed Force. So I just love these little homages. Like this reminds me of when in The Dark Knight Returns, when he exits the tank to fight the mutant leader. So just great work. Just enough to make it original, but enough to nod back to something that people absolutely love. And in 2 panels, you see why Bruce has kind of gone over the edge. He's lost not just his parents, but he's just lost almost all of his kids. So, the dark multiverse. Just intense, you know what I mean? So, Batman finds a way to take out the Flash. And he's going, where am I? And I like how he just goes, oh my God. And you see he's become a hood ornament on the Batmobile. And he's like, what are you doing? And that is just horrifying to see Batman do this to one of his longtime friends. And so Bruce explains why he's going to ride the Batmobile straight into the Speed Force using Barry. And I like as it happens, I love the paneling, how it just kind of sucks down. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, Barry. Please. But now we can save the world. Bruce! Together. You can't give up like this, Bruce. There's hope. And all of a sudden it's just kind of quiet. And then we cut to sometime later in Gotham. And again, Dark Knight Rises. I love that we see the mutants on the street. And we're starting to see how people are dying and everyone wants to cut off Gotham and just let it become a no man's land. But then we see the scarecrows are trying to attack a couple. And we see that Bruce's voiceover is kind of red and it says, my name is Bruce Wayne. I am vengeance. I am justice. I am the Red Death. And we just see him rip the Scarecrow apart. Now, as he's reintroducing himself, I like that this is a kind of a twist on Season 1's Episode 3, Nothing to Fear, where Batman says, I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. So I like that Williamson kind of took that from the animated series and twisted it as he just kills the Scarecrow, which Nothing to Fear is a Scarecrow-centered story, so it makes sense. Now, what are these faded text boxes saying, stop, please? We'll get into that in a moment. But we got to jump over ads, and we see that this is a Bruce that has been pushed too far. We saw the Scarecrow get ripped in half. We see the Riddler being crucified. We see the Penguin getting frozen and stabbed to death in the Iceberg Lounge. We see Man-Bat getting torn apart. And Bruce wanted to steal the Speed Force to try and save his Earth. But again, another gorgeous page here of all these reds and purples and the lightning with the yellows here and the white. Gorgeous. And he's saying that he's already too late. Now, when I was talking about those voiceovers, he starts to hear stuff from the Batman Who Laughs. And Batman Who Laughs basically saying, what if I told you there was a way you could save your world if it meant the destruction of another? And then we see his face twist, just this melting look, and we see Barry. And he goes, Bruce, it's Barry. Stay away from him. Don't listen. So that's who's begging is, even though he stole the Speed Force, he took part of Barry Allen with him. And this is where we come into Earth Zero. We see Iris West and what's his name, Wally West Jr. I have to say Jr. because I get him and the original Wally West flipped around. And so they're kind of setting up what's been happening with the Flashes so people that are new to reading can kind of jump in. But something happens where the Speed Force is corrupted. And this is where we see our Earth's Flash go up against the Red Death. And he's saying that voice, Bruce, is this what happened to you after you left Black Hawk Island? So make sure to read Dark Knight's Metal #1, which I'm glad that the editors tell you that. But yeah, I don't want to spoil what happens here. But there's one last thing I want to read. We get a voiceover narration from the Batman who laughs, and he goes, "Let me tell you a secret. All it takes is one bad day. One moment that should never happen. And the ground beneath you starts to crumble. Trust me. I know firsthand. All of us do." So yeah, one bad day will kill a world, but one bad week, that could kill a multiverse. So Batman, the Red Death. This was the first one-shot that they released when they were introducing all these new Batmen. And this is a great read, guys. This hooked me, and I jumped on the Drown, the Murder Machine, everything. So definitely a comic book you want in your collection. It's a very interesting take on what would happen if Batman flipped and decided to take the Speed Force for himself. And that's what's interesting about all these Batmans, is it shows what happens when Bruce gives into his insecurities, his fears, and anything else that he's tried to hold back in this universe. So if you've enjoyed this comic book, please first and foremost check with your local comic shop and see if there's a copy still in stock or if they can get you one. If not, then secondary market, fingers crossed for y'all. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little speed bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we'd love to hear your feedback and talk with y'all down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope y'all continue to have a bat-tastic day, pun intended, and happy hunting, true believers.